of owning a cafe and other heroic deeds by Beware the Tristero. Chapter 83. Date Night, Part 4. After enjoying a meal together at the largest study table, Shouta had handed over a paw print scattered box to their blinking, hamster-cheeked guest, the other's brows lifting. So, come on, man, I told you not to. The bro breathed gently, his battle-toughened fingers having lifted the lid and pulled free the pair of goggles that he'd asked Nezu, whom in turn had asked his support staff, to make on his behalf. The deputy principal, rather irritatingly, had refused so much as a yen of payment and sent him a second pair. For yourself to keep up, boss, good. You never know when they might come in handy. He'd texted him his thanks, and in return, he'd baked a special cake for the man using the Gold Tips Imperial tea he was so fond of, and Marai, the wonderful person he was, had been more than happy to deliver it to the Furred Pro last week since he'd been driving by to pick up Centipede for their patrol anyway. They'd sent photos of them enjoying it with a cup of the beverage, too, since he'd slipped in a few tea bags for them as well. It was great to have such good friends, wasn't it?
Well, think of this as me returning the favor.
He smiled at Toshi and Becky, marveling over the specially made gear before passing them on to an eagerly awaiting spinner who expected them in awe.
You gave me your support item when I needed it, so now I'm giving you something that'll hopefully keep you safe in return.
He shrugged. You're so sweet, Shem. The other sighed fondly. Thank you, he added while taking them back, sliding them over his head and allowing them to rest about his neck before with a wink. You gonna go get ready so we can head out? Chuckling, he nodded, left them all crowded around the gaming station, and gone for a quick shower and change of clothes. His date had told him to wear something that he could comfortably run and or jog in, which was a little surprising, really. A small, maybe childish part of him had wondered if they were going somewhere on the other man's clouds. However, he had looked over the dating pool chat over the past few days, since he'd made such a fuss of Toshinor's way of traveling. Perhaps the other thought it was best to go with something else? Not that he'd be disappointed with any place or activity that the pro wanted to treat him to. It was nice, really, to have friends. To visit places just because. To live a little, instead of constantly working towards a goal. And sure, he could and would never regret any of the choices which had led him here, because he wouldn't trade his found family or cafe community for everything. However, these past few months had really made him aware of everything he'd been missing, everything he'd closed his heart and mind off to. But still, he wasn't perfect, no one was, and so he simply resolved himself to keep his mind open, to give himself and others a chance to be more sociable, regardless of him feeling like he was walking through a minefield sometimes. However, in the interests of not being a hypocrite, he would keep working at himself, for what had he always told his care-sensitive siblings when they were growing up? Having a comfort zone and refusing to leave it are two very different things. There's nothing wrong with having a safe space, especially when you need self-care time. But staying there for too long can become a trap that'll stop you from progressing. They all thought he was so wise, until Tadeo found his inspirational comments for parents and teachers bookmark on the tired old desktop they could use when Itsu was sleeping off her latest binge. God, had they teased and ribbed him about it at the time. Not that they'd been too judgmental. They were all children at the time, and he'd admitted quite sheepishly that he needed some old wisdom to help and support him in helping and supporting them. Being a pseudo-father figure at the age of 10 would have been a great deal harder without such things, especially since none of them, way back then, had felt that there were any adults they could trust. He'd been so lucky to get his middle school teachers on side before he left for Tokyo. He'd been luckier still to meet his high school teachers, who'd gone on to nurture his ambitions and put him in the right direction for loans, work experience, and such, hadn't he? Smiling to himself, he donned his sneakers. He was also wearing his better pair of black jeans and dove gray pushing t-shirt, and jogged back downstairs, his eyes quickly assessing the kitchen before re-entering his eatery, where he found his teens, Tuts, and Oboro lounging around Dubby's booth. Snaggering?
Uh, am I missing something?
He asked, his right brow cocked. Oh no, no, we were just having a little chat about your date, that's all. The flame quirk user grinned while Spinner and Tumrock giggled into their hands. We're really looking forward to hearing all about it when you get home. So, go on, run along and have fun now, you hear? Feeling his eyes narrow a little, Shota hummed before approaching his wars and friends to ruffle at his oldest and youngest's hair.
Enjoy your video games, chicken on the cats, and if you go upstairs, don't forget to lock up the cafe first, okay?
Okay, Captain, they replied in an eerie unison, their use of his most well-known nickname causing him to grin before he followed the local pro outside, his gaze narrowing a touch.
You're all up to something, aren't you?
He asked, his tone wry. Maybe, the sun-kissed man replied breezily. I'll own up and admit that knowing where to take you tonight, or what to do, was something I had trouble with. At first, he mused, but then me and the kids started talking. I asked for some ideas, and bam, it hit like a bolt from the blue. He breathed excitedly. And speaking of blue, you want me to fly us to where we're going? He asked, two nimbuses manifesting as the question left his lips.
Uh,
He chuckled, his hands running over the fluffy, strangely thick plume.
I thought you'd never ask.
They had flown over Musatafu and headed to its outskirts before flying parallel to the coastline, their laughter ringing out overhead as the sun followed them, the air so much fresher after the rain, and the heat not as oppressive as it had been. However, they didn't land on the sands, and instead, the clouds continued to zip them down the lapping waves and towards
The pier?
he asked, his eyes looking over the wide-spanning, recently extended structure, complete with newly opened, boisterous, and busy attractions. The kid said that you hadn't been here yet, Obero replied, his smirk broadening, so I figured that this was a great choice for our evening out. You're after new experiences, right?
That I am.
He grinned as they started to descend, a few onlookers regarding them, whilst the majority continued on their way around the brightly lit, freshly painted, overly loud stretch of huge carnivalesque structures. Everywhere he turned there were people, many clearly having enjoyed a drink or two, and the noise, yeah, there was a lot of that too. Okay, so I got us tickets for something I think you're gonna like that you'll definitely have missed out on growing up. Obero told him as they walked through, and with the throngs of people their age, the scent of burnt sugar, vape smoke, and fried foods permeating the air as their sneakered feet trod the boards. Oh, he asked, his right brow cocking, as he looked around the stalls hawking pachinko games, shoot-'em-up arcades, and Western-styled beach apparel with accessories, his mind churning through the attractions he'd heard about thanks to his high school and middle school customers.
What's that exactly?
Eh, you'll see. Come on. Watching as the other, that smile magnetic, skipped on ahead, Shota moved to follow him, the sound of the waves slapping against the wooden supports, hardly audible over the laughing, singing, and loud raucous music jetting out from various loudspeakers from the livelier bars and street food vendors. Talk about sensory overload. He'd never understand how people could enjoy strobe lighting, buzzing noises, and thumping music at bone-rattling volumes. But still, this was what he was supposed to like, wasn't it? This was what he'd asked to see and experience. Hmm. Ta-da! Blinking out of his thoughts, Shota found himself at the very end of the pier, his eyes widening at the huge, almost warehouse-sized structure before him, a line of excitedly chatting people in their late teens and early 20s snaking around in a queue outside of it. Welcome to your first kimono meshi, show? Feeling his brows reach for his hairline, the eatery owner was vaguely aware that the slightly older man was leading him to the end of the line, his eyes still fixed on the haunted asylum, restless dead banner decrepitly draped across the mocked-up abandoned hospital, complete with spooky music and attendants stumbling around in bloody scrubs. Uh, so, what'd you think? The other asked, his eyes glittering. This is exciting, right? This place has rave reviews, and all of the zombies in there have electronic tags on them. He continued, his enthusiasm building. So when you get to take photos of them on the cute little cameras they give you, you can get points and points, my friend, to make prizes. Nodding absently, Shota felt his eyes rove over the ghoulish people sporting sandwich boards containing details of prices, rules, and prizes, their sallow appearance, lank hair, and blood-spattered clothing making him sigh. Rationally, he knew that all of these things were meant to ramp up adrenaline, and Yes, their culture was notorious for scary movies, yogai legends, and kimodameshi itself. However, he just didn't see the point of it all. But considering how keen his friend was, he could definitely try to get into the spirit of it all, couldn't he? You're not scared, are you? Laughed Snorting, his eyes rolling. He shook his head at the preening crow whilst the other wiggled his fingers in what he supposed was meant to be a spooky gesture. Oh yeah, he deadpanned. Terrified, actually. He furthered, his shoulders lightly shrugging. Would it be when they looked at those trumped up ticket prices, huh? Getting to enter the asylum in a group with four other people, Shouta upped. They'd been led to a small room by one of the undead staff, given tracking and monitoring bracelets because apparently some people became so scared in this place that they needed to be rescued. Oh look, more ties to damaged mental health. Who'd have thought? And their little cameras. Little cameras that were actually a simple bar with lens, flash, and some kind of transmitter to log the points scored.
We would like to remind all guests that this is a sensory experience. You're not in actual danger, and violence against our employees is strictly prohibited.
The stoop-shouldered hospital gown-covered corpse woman breathed in a ragged, raspy tone, her bloodshot eyes roving around each of them in turn.
Good luck. You're going to need it.
And then, Obero playfully nudging his shoulder, they walked through a set of double doors which boasted a classic "Dead inside, do not enter" sign. They squealed open with a blast of dry ice that made the teenagers in front of them shriek, his friend giggle, and then desperately try not to roll his eyes. Give it a chance. This is supposed to be fun. He mentally chided himself. Was it wrong that he'd rather be at the bar his Ashi had taken him to? Okay, so which way should we go? Casting his eyes around the intermittent darkness, Shouta watched as the four kids in front of them looked around, all of them reviewing the stage one setup, the abandoned psychiatric ward that was littered with dirty gurneys, scattered paperwork, and filthy bandages. Ew! He could already feel his inner neat freak wanting to get at the dustpan and brush. However, that wasn't the point of this activity, was it? No. No, he was meant to be goose-busting, wasn't it? However, so far, none of the ghosts or zombies were around, and like everyone else, they had the choice of either veering to the right and along the ground floor, or making their way up a dark, blood-slacked staircase. Somehow we didn't think, let's turn around and go for a walk down the beach, was an acceptable answer. We want points, right? He asked, his hands holding up the sanitized camera, his right index finger lightly resting atop the flash button. I'm willing to bet that the scarier monsters will be upstairs, he mused. So, you want to head up? Watching as the white-haired man balked at him. The cafe owner shrugged. What, do you want to get the grand prize or not? Man, you are so hardcore, the pro admitted. Okay, let's do this. He cheered, his grin widening as the younger people watched them go, their heads shaking. You guys are crazy, one of the young women called. Everyone knows that you have to work your way up there, she warned. You're welcome to come with us if you're afraid, he stated, his expression sincere. These kinds of things aren't for everyone. He furthered, before his eyes casting around for any employees using their quirks to hide. He juggled, spun to his right, and pressed the button. A bright flash, causing a man to materialize out of the wall, his pale face pulled in scary grimace. Whoa! Oh, Show! You got him! Chuckling, the ghoul African character. Shouta regarded the stairs and walked toward them, his head cocking to the side as he snickered. So, are you coming or not? Clambering up the stairs, clearly designed to be rickety, the group had lined behind him. Not that he minded. Not at all. It was always warming to provide comfort to others, and Obero helping to shepherd the younger explorers. The six of them made it to the next floor, where he helps them spot the undead, lurking around corners, concealed in the floors, walls, ceilings, and debris, all of them holding their cameras, in some cases, somewhat steady. Yo, guy, 12 o'clock. Actually, now that his mind was set on winning some gifts for his wards, this activity wasn't so bad. Zombies incoming, watch out for the windows. And if he was perfectly honest, his initial gripes aside, they were at least ensuring that these people had jobs, jobs where their quirks being used for entertainment and not more nefarious purposes. Ah, Nisa, you're so cool! Also, together, he and their comrades, as Obero called them, hadn't run from the pretty frightening, he supposed, kind of pissed off monsters sent to torment them, and instead had successfully snapped many of them. What? I feel so alive! He and Obero had even attempted a few selfies with some of the clearly bewildered asylum workers snorting and actually playing along. One of the women who, her pale face huffing and begrudging, had actually gotten in on a shot whilst the teenagers, similarly taking part, had tried to laugh but had definitely freaked out when the ghost woman had distended her neck to curl about them. Quick! Take that apparition's photo before he vanishes! He's worth 100 points! On the note, he was pretty sure that they'd acquired enough points to snag some premium prizes. Are you kidding me? He deadpanned, his head cocking to the side, as a man who had vaulted out of the floor in an explosion of styrofoam bricks and mortar, his body drenched in red and squirting guts, stood before him and roared in his face. I'm not meaning to be rude here, but you could do with a breath mint pound, he told him with a shrug, his nonplussed form snapping the camera in the monster's disbelief and rapidly blinking face as he sidestepped him and walked casually towards the exit. Come on, you guys, he called. Let's see if their prizes are as good as their advertisements make them out to be.